Welcome to Eat This. Eat this. This week, we have lunch with Saumitra Chandratreya, fiber installation artist, an all-around wonderful person.
We've known each other for many years, but have only recently started working together in the last year creating this costume piece for a dance number. You can see this work at Here in Our Bodies at Steppenwolf Theater, February 26th, 27th, 28th. Shameless plug. But be sure to also check out Saumitra's website for more of his work. And be sure to follow him on Instagram. For lunch, we had a vegan Caesar salad with a vegan minestrone soup, an iced strawberry matcha, and a white wine. Let's dive right in.
Hi everyone, my name is Saumitra Chandratreya. I'm a visual artist. I'm a friend of Sean's. I live like a block from Sean, so I love hanging out with Sean a lot. I also teach at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago in the fashion department. I split my time between Chicago and St. Petersburg, Florida, where I have my studio. So if you see me on a plane to Tampa, I'm probably going to St. Pete. I am working with Sean on a project that I'm really excited for. I love being in Chicago. It's like one of my favorite cities in the world, actually. I have been working on something really exciting. I do a lot of printmaking that I'm very enjoying a lot. So please follow me on Instagram at Soumya I Saw You.
So my first question, what is creativity to you and what isn't?
The second part I'm not so sure about. I think just like any activity, and it doesn't have to be like an active activity, right? Like any thought process that brings something into the world is kind of creativity for me. Mm-hmm. So, because like I don't want to draw a distinction of like that's creative, that's not, right? I'm like, if you are thinking about a creative solution to a problem, that's in a way like really like where creativity like is for me stems from, that there is a problem and no one has been able to solve it, and you, with your knowledge of whatever the said problem is, you're able to solve it. Like that's essentially where a lot of creativity comes from. And like this, like in terms of like using it in our day-to-day lives, we kind of like do it unconsciously so much. Like let's say you're stranded on a train platform and you're trying to figure out how to get home. The train is stopped. Your brain essentially like does this really quick calculation of like, okay, these are different solutions I have. Which one is the best for me right now? And then like you do that, right? Like you're not just standing there in the train waiting to be like, is someone coming to save me, or am I going to like take this in my own hand? And like that's like, and then you come up with a creative solution to like a problem that's at your hand. I also like children use it, right? That is like they manipulate you, and like that manipulation is a form of creativity. Like they are trying to figure out how to get something from you, and there are rules for them not getting it, but then they figure out like how to get it from you by doing certain things, and that's like a form of creativity. I don't know, and so like that's where I think basically like where creativity comes from. Like right, it's coming from figuring out something new, like figuring out an interesting solution and like bringing that forth into the world.
Yeah. So creativity is primarily subjective.
Yes, absolutely.
And creativity is a fundamental principle of consciousness in life.
Absolutely, yeah, like
That-
just day-to-day life, yeah.
Creativity fuels our
Yeah.
existence.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I am specifically focusing on creativity because we get so bogged down in what's art and what's not. And I feel like everybody should really take a step back if that's where they want things to go. Because then my next question, what is work and what isn't? We have distinctions. We're told how we should develop boundaries of what we bring into work and what we don't.
Mhm.
And it's not that there are different parts of ourselves that are illuminated differently in different
Right,
contexts.
right.
That's not what I mean. That is a passive result.
Mhm.
What I feel society wants me to do is actively decide what I bring and what I don't bring into certain contexts.
Mhm.
And specifically with work, that there is a very different part of myself that I bring to the work that I'm doing.
Mhm.
And that in a lot of cases, creativity is not valued, or I should not risk bringing it into that space. So I'm wondering, for you and your experience of life, what is work and what is not work?
See, this is when things get convoluted and complicated, right? For me, work is something where you do something and you get remunerated for it. But that's also like a really capitalist way of looking at work, right? That like you're doing something and then you're getting money, let's say, back for it. But like I've also done lots of work, quote unquote, for free. It doesn't mean that I'm not getting something out of it. Like I'm doing it for a friend as a favor. I'm doing it for a loved one because like they couldn't do it, or like, you know, there are just like I don't know. I have grappled with this question and I'm like trying to like think about this answer like on the fly right now because I'm like
I'm throwing it at you.
I know, but like I don't have like a coherent idea because and you know, like I have done lots of different jobs, right? Like I have
Yeah, that's a whole other word
Right,
to throw into
right,
the mix.
exactly.
A job. Yeah, totally.
And the way like we are, but I think it's also like my mind is jaded from going to an art school and then having like creative people around me all the time and having creative jobs all the time where creativity was encouraged, or like you were essentially like a persona non grata, like if you weren't creative, right? Like, or like if you weren't, and let's bring in another word, weird, right? Like if you didn't have a quirk, if you were too much of a stable person, people would be like, why are you here? And which is its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and the way I was taught was also really interesting. I was taught that actually creative people make really good workers, or like go ahead in life because they can think of creative solutions to problems, which people who aren't as creative may not think about. And so like we are valued because we can think about different solutions to problems that like people, and that's the thing again, like it's all like valuing us and our minds in a way where we are able to find solutions to problems for capitalism, and then like that's how we are
Right.
made to, that's how like work is looked at, that's how like we are thought of as like assets, because like we can do something that like no one else has been able to, or no one else can as fast, as much, or whatever, right? like I remember I was working this corporate job, and like my boss was kind of very hands off, and you know he would just give me a task and I would complete it, and like sometimes he was like, wait, you're already done? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, like I thought it would take you a long time. And I was like, no, I figured out like this is, I made these connections, and then like I just figured out how to do it quickly. And you know, which in a way was also like him to be like, oh, then I can give them more work, which
Yeah.
no.
Right.
Right? So I don't know, like my relationship to work has been strange. Not just because of that, it's just like I have had to have work in order to survive. And then I have had my studio in which I also work in, where even if I spend all night in my studio, yes, I'm physically tired, but I'm emotionally like so recharged because like I'm just spending time doing what I like or what I want to do in a way. So yeah, my relationship with work has been really strange, especially because of this. And then now I teach, which is work, which takes a lot out of me. But at the same time, it gives me so much because like the students are incredible, my colleagues are incredible. The conversations that I have when I'm at the school are like amazing. The conversations that I have with students are really sometimes insightful. I think it's like the first time in my life where I'm like, oh, this is work, and I feel drained, but at the same time, like, it feels great to do this, to be a part of something, you know? So,
Amazing.
yeah.
So it is this. It is also it is an ambiguous concept, and there is an amount of ambivalence about work.
Yeah.
And how it intertwines with creativity, and creativity framed, like you were saying earlier, framed as life force, as what the impetus for existence.
Yeah, I mean also like, you know, the fact that like there are categories of work, right? Like when we are just doing chores at home, it's called housework. And it's like, yes, you're living in this house. You have to take care of it. You have to take care of yourself. I think by calling it work, we are almost like validating that, which I find interesting. And I have used that word before, and every time I use it, I'm like, this feels strange to say this, where I'm like just living, right? Like you're truly, I mean, so like when you're sleeping, like we don't say I'm sleep working or like I'm right?
But maybe we will in 20 years if it continues this way. We can justify all of our.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like justification for doing something by adding the word work to it. Yeah.
Self-work, working on myself.
Right.
Interesting. Well, let's parse this out.
Okay.
With some qualitative data of our anecdotal experience, based on things we've done together.
Okay.
Things we have worked on together and created together. So I would say so we met in 2019.
Right, I was trying to think about that, yes.
For Pride, actually like around this time.
Yes, for Pride North, yeah.
And there's a storm coming in.
Yes, I can hear it.
So we met 6 years ago.
Yes.
I would say that we started really like investing a lot of time into our collaborative creativity 6 months ago?
Yeah, probably. Yes.
So, yeah, I would love to hear your words about that project and like where it has developed to.
Or well, you approached me with the EP, and then you were like, let's start working on something around this. And I've really enjoyed it. I just really enjoy when the two different art forms kind of are in conversation with each other. There is something really magical happens. And it's not like this is something very different from like a designer working with a dancer or a choreographer on a costume, right? Like it's in that similar vein. Except that like, because we didn't have like a fully set deadline for it, and so we were kind of very amorphous in terms of like what the timeline was, like what we were going to do, which is like also like having that freedom is also really helpful. I mean, I work well under pressure when there is a deadline, but also like when I have time, it's also like just flows sometimes. And like our collaboration has really, it has impacted me in a lot of incredible ways as well.
Me too.
I think just like going to shop for, so first of all, like when we were thinking about the garment, we kind of, I was in Florida, I think, when you sent me the EP, and I was listening to it around sunset, and it kind of dawned on me that there is something incredible about the loop of like sunset, sunrise to sunset, and then we kind of thought, and I sent you like an idea of having this garment that mimics those colors or like that pattern of like what the sky looks like when the sun is rising or when it's setting. And then we started figuring out how to like realize this, like realize it, this garment like on your body, which I love that process.
Yeah, it was a very organic process.
Yeah.
And then there were, I think because we were super open in our structure and our timeline until we needed to have a deadline, right? There's a performance, so this is, so, and not, we're gonna feel an immense amount of pressure.
No.
We're gonna recognize that what we put forward in this performance is what we've done.
Right.
And that it's never complete.
No.
But I think that structure of openness, like, really helped us find interesting perspectives and interesting angles and interesting ways to like tell this story.
Yeah.
Like discovering, I don't remember exactly when it was, but when we kind of discovered like, oh, this is a reveal, it's in a burlesque context, so we want something that falls off the body, but like, oh, we should have something that like falls off the body in an effortless way, that there is this like arrival to an effortless reveal, was like a really cool journey.
Yeah, and also like, you know, like usually like there is this effort to figure out strategies to let the garment fall off, right? So like having it draped on your body, like didn't need sewing it a certain way, right? Like the draping, tying it, pleating it, wrapping you in it, kind of took care of like literally covering your body in the garment. And that's something that we can really think about and push in certain way too, because I'm really interested in this idea of what is wrapping and unwrapping a body. And like there are, I mean, we do it every day, but like, do we think about it that way, right? And so that's something that I'm like genuinely interested in. And like burlesque as an art form like does it in like such magical and interesting way. There are so many different ways of doing it. So like, you know, this is like our addition to like this strategy of like burlesque performance in a way too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It is so true that we're like constantly, daily, regularly wrapping and unwrapping ourselves in clothing. But we don't think about it that way. I combed through your website, which I've done many, many times. But one thing that really stood out, there were several things, but one thing that stood out is like this is another word that I'm introducing that can have some cringy connotations, but you use a lot of techniques. And I'm wondering what is technique for you in your artistic practice and in your life and in your work and in your creativity.
I do get that question a lot, that like I use too many techniques.
Not too many.
No,
many in a beautiful way.
Well, right. And I think people don't realize that they're saying too many. Like, I think they mean it in like a non-negative way. And like, I want to challenge that, right? Like, it's like, we contain multitudes, like, and there is like this expectation that an artist works in one medium and never leaves that medium, which is not true. Like, a lot of artists actually like dabble in different mediums. It depends on what they reveal to the audience about that, right? Like, and if you look at like oeuvre of an artist, like, you will see that they have done this, they have done that, they have, because, and that's just the nature of, another word, quote unquote, industry, or like the nature of like what an art is, right? Like, to me, and I wish someone had kind of, I know this is beautiful, someone had like in a way drilled it into me earlier, but like, art is more of an idea than a technique. We are in the business of, in a way, perpetuating, distributing ideas and like what we think about a particular issue, subject, prompt, blah blah blah. Our ideas, I mean, I don't know if, so let's, like, our ideas almost hold more value, especially now in the year of 2025, where if you have an interesting idea, it will almost take you farther than if you're very good at something. And that's because we just live in like an image-rich world where things are crowded and standing out because of your idea is almost more valued than how good you are at like a particular technique or a medium. Like, and this is no shade, right? Like, this is, I don't mean this as a shade, like, this is just
this is how you're approaching.
Well, this is how I also like have observed the art world in general. There are artists who paint like beautiful still lives, and there is a market for that. And not everyone is interested in that, right? And like, so there is like this diversification of like what people want. Anyway, so going back to like how I think about techniques is, sometimes I think of an idea and then I figure out what's the best way to denote that idea, but also what can I do with the idea, because like, I can't paint, like, that's just not my medium. So printmaking kind of is helpful that way, because I can make something look like painterly, but it's not paint, because like I can't do that. So like there's like this I kind of think about an idea and then I approach that idea with what tools I have in my studio around me, what can be done, and then I do it that way. And it's interesting, like I have been like I was trained as like a textile designer / fiber artist, and then but I was always interested in kind of taking those techniques of like how to print, how to make a fabric, how to weave a fabric, how to dye a fabric, like, you know, all of those. I was always interested in applying those in a quote unquote fine art setting because I was just like more interested in that, like as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. And so because of that kind of knowledge base, like I can kind of approach many different techniques within those like 3 basic fiber mediums, and then like so I've kind of, if you look at my work, like a lot of it has roots in these mediums, and then like I take them from there essentially.
That's awesome. So technique is after the idea.
Yes, and also, well, or like I'm working on something and then I get an idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right.
Which I'm a big proponent of, like thinking through making. Because sometimes you're just like working on something and then suddenly you realize that this works, and then an idea emerges from that essentially, which I love as well.
Cool. I have 2 more like questions specifically about your work. One is just not necessarily a question, but a quote on your website that I would love to hear more about.
Sure.
I use visual signs of human life, including natural spaces, as a metaphor for the state of invading and invalidating LGBTQIA plus people. I want to hear more about this.
So that's like specifically about like this work that I had made in like 2022. In Florida, where I live, there is a creek that runs through the neighborhood that connects like this man-made lake to the Tampa Bay. Along the creeks there are mangroves to slow down like the waves coming in from the bay, and so it's like this really like very natural space, because like once you plant a mangrove it kind of just takes over, and there are different kinds of birds who like are in this habitat. There are turtles, there are fish, there are alligators, like, you know, so it's like kind of like this ecosystem by itself. But on either side of it is a busy city, right? Like houses and like cars and people, and so to navigate like that human life, there are like all the signs of a human life. So like there are signs like speed humps ahead, or like one way, or like wrong way, or like there are just like all of these things that that tell you, or like that are trying to contain the wilderness, let's say, around this creek. And in Florida in 2022, they passed like what's popularly / unpopularly known as the Don't Say Gay bill. I don't remember the exact name of the bill. It's like pretty long. It's like I don't even want to like try, but it's essentially like what it does is it puts a strict ban on discussion or instruction about anything LGBTQ in school curriculum. So like when I think about that, it's like, wow, you're like so afraid, or you're so afraid of like having LGBTQ people around you, amongst you, that you're trying to literally erase us from like your school curriculum. And it kind of like, reminds me of like this idea of like invading like this natural space, like with human science, of like trying to contain it, or like trying to make sure that that natural habitat is not disrupting like the human life around it. And yeah, so I think that's where like that quote comes from.
I love that. It frames human sexuality as a natural.
Right.
As
Exactly.
natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it frames any attempt to limit or suppress as unnatural.
Right.
And I think that's really important, which ties into my next question. Again, not totally a question, but I just, looking at all of your art, whether it's like explicitly sexual or not, it brought back this memory. I was like hooking up with a drag queen in Chicago several years ago, and we were having sex, and I was like, you're a performance artist, like we clearly are kin in like how we approach creativity, and learned that we're not, because I was like, sex is creative, sex is a creative act, like it is, and they were like, no, and I was like, interesting. So that memory surfaced in looking and looking deeper at your work, because there are just these like sexual undertones within the work, and sometimes it's very explicit.
Right.
And I just love that framing of sexuality within your art.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you have any more thoughts that you want to share about that.
Yeah, as someone who is sex positive, like I like talking about it. And I just feel like there is like this, like, especially in art, like this long tradition of painting a nude or like depicting a nude. And I'm interested in what happens before, right? Like a model walks in and they're taking their clothes off, and I'm interested in what their clothes look like on the floor. Because like, to me, yes, like the actual, like, and I'm giving that as an example, but like what I mean is like, if you're talking about it, like say like a sexual act, I'm more interested in kind of like the symbols of it, because I find them more interesting almost, and I think it's because I am not, like, I love looking at a body, right, but I don't know if I'm interested in representing it.
Right.
I think I'm more interested in representing the environment around that body.
Right.
And I think that's just because I find it more compelling as a storyteller. Like, and I think, it could also be because growing up in India, especially in like Bollywood movies, you wouldn't really see a sexual act. It was implied, it was never explicit. It would be like two roses kind of like kissing, like two roses kind of like, coming together, or like someone is leaving the room like at night, or like, like just things like that like, and I was like fascinated by that like repression of like, and I don't know if it's right, like it's like this idea that like, oh, we can't show like an explicit sexual act.
Right.
And maybe it's stemming from that, like that kind of like idea of like not showing the sexual act, like, and so I'm really like interested in like the environment, like that's why like I love like jockstrap, right? Because like it, and there are again like other cultural meanings behind it, and yeah, and just like, so like I like showing like this idea of sex, but then it's not explicit, but it's implied in
Right.
a way.
What came to mind for me as you were talking was like how much visual art I have consumed that centers a body as the object of
Right.
desire.
Right.
And so much of that art is absolutely beautiful, but that goes back to the Renaissance.
Yeah.
That goes back so
Right.
far
Yeah.
in like the hegemonic westernized, globalized art world
Right.
that like the body is the object of desire. And I really like the perspective of it's all of things around us. It's a much more holistic approach.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, like I love looking at other art that centers body, right? It's visually appealing. That's like how we are trained,
Yeah.
in a way.
No,
And-
OnlyFans. OnlyFans is art. You heard it here. First.
All the power to every content creator, because my God, the amount of work that goes into that is. I'm too lazy for it. I am too lazy for it. But yeah, no, I just really, I mean, you know, I consume a lot of like art that centers body as well. And I really like looking at it, but I'm also like, you know, it goes back to that question of like creativity and like what are you adding to the cultural conversation, and like I'm interested in, you know, what does a room look like when you're having sex, like,
Right.
or like what is, and it's not even just about sex, it's like what is the LGBTQ life like in 2025? What are we discussing? Like, what is the cultural conversation? What are we centering in terms of like what we are celebrating? And I think that's why like I have like that whole thing of jocks, which have like different labels on it, and that's because like it's funny to me to have like a jock that says wicked on it. Because it's like what? Or yeah, like a jock that just says daddy on it. It's just like, it's like what does it even mean? Like, you know, and it's like just like this idea of like this is what we're talking about right now, and so this is what I want to depict in my art in a way. And it's so funny that you use the word object of desire, because like when I was doing like cyanotypes in 2022, 2023, I realized like I have like the first ever job that I bought. I still have it. Like it's, I mean, it has lost its elastic. Like, you know, it's
Love those. I hang on to them too.
unwearable,
Yeah.
but I kind of just like was looking at it once and I was like, oh, I really want to like somehow archive it, and so I made this cyanotype of it, and it's called Object of Your Desire, because like in a lot of ways when I'm wearing a jock, I want to signal that I am here to be desired in a way, and so like that's where like that was coming from, and then like I just like that, oh, like then now I can just kind of take that meaning apart and like use it, like use that template for like other stuff as well.
Thank you. What are your dreams for the future?
No, I sighed that way because it's like, honestly, like, they're rather simple. I want to be able to keep making art. Like that's, I can't imagine my life without it. So like, it's essentially like and I'm saying it as a dream because like, I have seen lots of people give up on their practice, and like I want to continue making art like for a long time. I honestly want, I mean, this sounds like a really canned answer, but like I essentially like want to live in a world where people aren't fighting for their basic human rights all the time. And I'm sure like our elders are like have said this before, where they're like, we had to fight and you don't have to, and like I want us to stop saying that, you know, like to younger generations, because like I can't believe like even now we are having to constantly fight for people's humanity, especially in Middle East, where we have seen like just horrific trampling of people's humanity and death and destruction. And so that's like my biggest dream, is to like not having to look like not having to convey our humanity, and also like not having other people do it as well, like having to do that in order to be spared by some sort of a destruction or fascist state. Yeah. So I had therapy today, so like I'm feeling very emotionally vulnerable in certain sense, where like I was telling my therapist that like I can't really tell people how I might be feeling on a day-to-day basis, because every day there's a new horror that we unearth or that we are treated to, essentially, and that's like soul-crushing. It's soul-crushing to witness it, so I can't even imagine how it is to live it. So
yeah, I agree. It's like it's a really weird time, and I feel like the discussions, the justification of the creative work that we do in the society is like even more important.
Absolutely.
We need to have the ability to imagine and to create together, and sometimes that is creating food.
No, absolutely. And yeah, and you know, like a part of a dream is also to like just be able to live comfortably.
Yeah.
Which is like not asking for too much, but like it feels like it, like in this like capitalist society sometimes,
Right.
where like I don't have to justify being able to just live comfortably.
Yeah.
Which seems wild.
Comfortably with all of the work,
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's joy in that too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So our game is that we're going to create something.
Okay.
We are going to create a musical work about a favorite animal.
This. Eat this.
In the debut performance of, what did we call it?
Oh, whale and a dinosaur talking about their size.
Yes. Whale and a dinosaur talking about their size. Soon to be Grammy award winning. We have the first and probably only performance.
Yes.